Welcome to the Been There, Done That, Let's Chat podcast. My name is Russ Hagan, and on this podcast, my aim is to raise awareness around men's mental health and suicide prevention. As men, we don't talk enough about our feelings and our internal battles. This is what I'm trying to change. Today's guest is Murray Richardson. Murray chats about his rise through the corporate ladder, what it's like to compete in the Hawaiian Ironman, and he also tells us about how his father attempted to take his own life, not once but twice. Hey Muzz, thanks for coming, bud.
Russ, it's great to be here, and thank you very much for having me.
Nah, appreciate it, mate. Thanks for coming. Mate, just like I said, most of the time on this, buddy, we just have a chat in general. You know, obviously based around mental health, that sort of issues, but just everything, mindset, your life, how you got through things. So, yeah, mate, where'd you grow up, Muzz?
We got a couple of dates for this.
We got a few, yeah.
Grew up in Blacktown, actually, far western Sydney.
Yep.
That's where my parents bought their first home. From there, we moved around a bit because my father was very successful with his job in the electrical industry, selling TVs and fridges. So we moved from Blacktown to Carlingford, then from Carlingford down to Melbourne for about 4 years, Melbourne back to Sydney for 4 years, and back down to Melbourne for 4 years.
So moved around a lot with your dad's job.
Yeah, it was really difficult as a young bloke because we were bouncing between schools. So I found it very difficult to sort of, find a core group of friends.
Yep.
So that was the most difficult part about being moved around with Dad and his job.
Yep.
At the time. Yeah. So from there, basically my parents packed up from Melbourne and took off, and my sister and I were left on our own to stand on our own 2 feet. So
what age was that at?
No more free accommodation, no more free food.
How old were you then?
Oh, we would have been, I think, at 22.
Yep. So still pretty young.
Still pretty young.
Yep.
So we were batching on our own, living together, and parents went back to Sydney. My sister and I had good jobs at the time, and within the industry I was working in, it was industrial, and I did relatively well out of that. And I got promoted across to Perth, so I went over to Perth as a young, I think I was about 24 at the time, 25. Went over there at the time and did very well. I was only meant to be there for 6 months, but because I did a good job, I was there for 3 years.
Yeah.
And as a single bloke, I had the time of my life. Like it was, you reckon you had a lot on weekends. Like I was fully booked.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great lifestyle. And then my sister got married, and I realised that I was starting to get homesick and quite lonely. So I decided to pull the pin, leave the business I was working for, and flew back to Sydney, joined my folks and lived with them. And my life evolved from there on. They lived in Lugano, so it was a good segue for me to get into Cronulla.
Yep.
And to make some friends, and that's what I did.
Yeah, nice. And growing up as a kid, mate, obviously I know you, so I know you're into triathlons a bit, and you just mentioned before AFL.
Yeah, AFL. So when you live in Melbourne, you got to play it.
Yeah.
Or at least talk about it 24/7.
It's a pretty shit game, though.
Oh, it was terrible. But through peer group pressure, I joined a local football club, and I played in the C grade, then the B grade, and then I ended up playing B grade and A grade. But that wasn't because I was good. It was only because we needed numbers.
Yep.
So, and I put my hand up for full forward because I realised that was the job or the position that did the least work but got the most accolades with kicking all the goals. So
yeah, nice.
it was a great job to have.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of running, football training, but also when you're on the paddock for 7 quarters, it's a lot of running. So
yeah, it's a fit game, AFL.
A very fit game. So it was football, pub, and I smoked. I smoked for about 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
And loved my Benson Hedges extra mile.
Yeah.
As you would at quarter time, you'd pop out a ciggy in the change room and have a quick puff and run back out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was all very good in terms of what the AFL did for me. Just kept my head going, and because once you've finished school, you have a bit of a break, and then I just decide to step into the sport and get serious about it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but from there, I mentioned the pub. So every Thursday night we'd have pub night. So you got paid on Thursday every Thursday. So the pay packet went with you straight to the pub.
Yeah.
So you'd meet the boys, have a few beers.
In them days, you get the cash in the satchel, wouldn't you? Too?
That's it.
All
That's
in the cash.
exactly right.
Yeah.
And they'd tick you off the book.
Yeah.
So they'd race at the pub, meet the boys, and have a couple of beers and share stories and whatnot, and smoke, because in those days you could smoke in the pub.
Yeah.
If it was a good night, I'd go through a pack of 20. But no, we just get talking, and one of the boys mentioned that they were doing this sport called triathlon. I said, "What the hell's a triathlon?" And they said, "Well, you swim, you bike, you run." And I said, well, how many weekends does that take? They said, no, you do it on the one day.
Same
I
way.
said, that's garbage.
Yeah.
So anyway, they said, we're doing one this weekend. Come and watch us. And I didn't, but I went and did the race, and I saw them the following Thursday. They finished the race. In other words, they ticked their box. And I said, so you seriously did it all in one day? And they said, yep, here's our medal to prove it. So I thought, okay. And so they gave me a bet. So for me, getting in the sport of triathlon was over a bet in a pub while I was having a cigarette.
Okay.
So that bet became a reality for me. I entered in the sport and did a short distance and got involved in what they call Olympic distance, did quite a bit of that, which is 1.5K swim, 40K bike and 10K run. Then I got into long distance, and then when I moved to Sydney from Perth, like I mentioned earlier, I got introduced to Ironman Triathlon, which is 3.8K swim, 180K bike and 42K marathon, just to make sure that you've had a good time.
Yep.
And I thought that was insane and impossible, but I trained and registered for the Australian Ironman Championships.
Was that in Foster back then still?
Back in Foster, Tuncurry. Yep. Beautiful town.
Yeah,
and,
nice,
and the community really got behind the sport too.
Yeah.
So the first one was all about survival. Just get to that line, whether you're crawling, rolling, just get to the finish line.
It's a long time, eh?
Oh, it's a big day.
I went up and watched a mate who I thought at the time, he was the fittest of all our mates. And he got into it too and went up to do one.
Yeah.
And me and my mate went to watch him, and he was like, mate, like 11 hours and 45 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And that was like non-stop exercise. I'm like, shit.
Yeah, no, look, it was a bit of a rude awakening because I really enjoyed the sport. I was competitive. I liked, the camaraderie. As you race as individuals, but the camaraderie in terms of training and in terms of after the event, it's first class.
Yeah.
It's talking to each other. It's getting to know each other's personal life as well.
Yeah, because you spend a lot of time training, eh? Obviously.
Absolutely.
Lots of hours training.
Yeah, and you put a lot on the line, particularly for the Ironman distance. You know, your family has to virtually sort of wait around you while you're doing all those long hours out on the road on the bike or running or swimming. But I had a good neighbour, and you had him on here on podcast not that long ago, Greg Welsh. So he was my neighbour across the road. So,
wow.
So Greg gave me all the insights of what a World Championship Ironman's all about and what he does to prepare for it. But I was just focusing on the Australian Ironman. But that Australian Ironman Championship, if you did a certain time within your age group, it qualified you to go to the World Championships and represent Australia in Hawaii. So my very first Ironman in 1990, I'll never forget it, Foster.
Yep.
Got over the line, that survival thing, and I managed to scrape in for my age group and qualified. So, I ticked two boxes. I completed distance of the Ironman and to then qualify and go and represent my country. But the sport has so much to be thankful from me because in 1990 I went across to Hawaii, and you train all through winter. The race is in October. So when you go to Hawaii, your skin's all lily white, and you've trained in terrible conditions, icy, cold mornings.
Yep.
And over there you get on the main island, Hawaii. Kona Kalu is where they hold the race, and it's like 43 to 45 degrees and maybe about 70%, high 70s in terms of humidity.
Yeah, shit.
But I was going out with a girl at the time, and I said, look, we've got to call it quits. I just need a break. I was going with her for maybe about a year or two.
Yep.
I wanted a break, just wanted some clean space. I was getting it was all too much for me.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah. And then the night before the race, one of my good mates that I trained with said, come to my parents' apartment. They've got a massage table. My father's a masseurist.
Yeah.
I said, are you paying for it? Come down, we'll do it for free. So I went down there and met with him, and he threw me on the table with my budgies on, getting this massage. And next to my mate's sister comes into the apartment, and mother said, who are you? And I explained who I was. They said, oh, so you're Murray. And I said, well, that didn't sound too good because I don't go out partying, I just train. And anyway, Michael's sister ended up becoming my wife, which is Kim.
Yeah, nice.
And that happened all back in 1990. So, I've got the sport to thank in terms of introducing Kim and I.
Yep.
And what we're coming up to, I think, 32 years.
Yeah, wow.
We've known each other about 34, 35. So it's been a great journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the Ironman Hawaii, I had the wonderful experience of doing 6 Fosters, and I qualified on each one, but you sort of became, I'm going to say, selective about going and doing the World Championships because in those days, well, it does today, it costs a lot of money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you really got to think hard if you want to go and spend that sort of money to go and do it. And I've already experienced it. So I thought, what more can I do then to get a better time? So went it on 3 other occasions.
Oh, so you've done it 4 times?
Yeah, I did 90,
wow.
91 and 94 when Greg won it. And
Yep.
I know Greg said on your podcast that he was the first non-American ever in the sport's history to win it.
Yeah,
and I happened to be there. And I was running on the Queen K Highway in the marathon, feeling fairly lonely and like, I just wanted to pull the pin. Saw this tirage of like vehicles and motorbikes and helicopters and this guy bouncing up and down his feet running down the road.
Coming
and
down
here's
the way.
Greg Welsh.
Oh, he was on the lap back.
We both high-fived each other and I said, I can't see second. You've won it. So, so it was a memorable experience in 94.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So you've done well in the sport.
Yeah, look, I did well, I think, in terms of what it did for me.
Yep.
If I go back in time, like I said, it was a bet in a pub. I was having a cigarette and having a beer. It got me off the cigarettes for a start.
Yep.
I mean, I did my first couple of races having a cigarette in the car park.
Yep.
But it certainly sort of wound down the amount of alcohol I was consuming at such a young age. And it just got my head straight.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, but
Yep.
it gave me a purpose. It gave me structure. And in terms of my job too, I was sort of bouncing in between jobs. So I just didn't have a sweet spot. But this was like a safety pillow for me, the sport that I was doing.
Yep.
And, I had this incredible group of friends that I was training with. Whether it was morning, night, during the day, they're always there for you.
Yep.
And that's what I really loved about the sport. And, I've peeled away from it a lot over the years, but I still see a lot of friends down at South Cronulla that I raced with, that I trained with. And you always stop by and say hello to each other. And
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we just look a bit older these days, but
Everyone
we
does
still
that.
have good memories.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And then, so you said that sort of set you up maybe for your work life, and you're pretty successful now. Well, mate, you're a pretty successful businessman.
Yeah. It's been, as I said, it was a bit of a uncertain journey to begin with, but once I found my feet, and I was still managing to do the sport too, so I was training and working, and then I knew I had to pick something, and so I backed away from the sport for a while, personal level, and stepped up in the employment game, and I just by coincidence just sort of fell into the industry that my father was so successful in. I always loved my father's industry that he worked in. He had a lot of friends that he made. He always went away and to different parts of the world, and it just seemed like the perfect lifestyle.
Good job, yeah.
And so anyway, I fell into the same industry, and from there, I just, I suppose, navigated my way to where I am today, and that's, and that expands, I think, close to 35 years.
Yep.
And now working with LG Electronics as the sales director.
Yeah, nice.
For their consumer electronics division, so fridges, TVs, and all that sort of thing.
Yep.
But been there for, actually, it's coming up to 20 years this year.
Yeah.
So time flies, but no, it's certainly a wonderful organisation to work with, and the mixture or the calibre of people that you work with, from different backgrounds. Obviously a lot of Koreans that I work with, but there's a lot of local people as well.
Yep.
It's a very mixed day because there's a lot of people that you have to work with. A lot of different personalities you've got to navigate with.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of expectations you got, try and deliver. So, but look, I still enjoy it. I haven't lost the taste.
Yep.
Or not yet.
Yep.
But yeah, it's been a very interesting career for me. Very exciting one, and rewarding too. What my dad did is what I'm doing. In actual fact, when I first got into the industry, I was meeting customers that my dad used to deal with.
Oh, okay.
And when I deal with them, and I had a different way of dealing or doing business than what my father would. And I always thought that I was giving them the short end of the stick compared to what my dad would do.
Bit ruthless.
Yeah, they said, your old man was a nice bloke.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said, you're terrible. So, but that was good. It gave me a bit of a self-awareness assessment as well. So I sort of changed my tone a bit and
get more experienced and
I became, I suppose, more engaging.
Yeah.
Instead of being more direct.
But you're a pretty friendly bloke, or I haven't dealt with your business, but
I try to be.
Yeah, you seem fine. Yeah.
Oh, look, life's too short.
Yeah.
I do have people that are of that caliber that are too difficult to do with, and you find that those people become distant. There's not a lot of people that gravitate to them.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people in the industry that want to do business with them. But
do you think there's a reason there like that, Bud, or like maybe personal issues you think, or you don't know? Or
I think it's a combination of that. the first thing that comes to mind is arrogance. So sometimes when people sort of step up in the career pathing, their ego does too.
Okay.
So you got to be very careful about that. By all means, you can work your way up the corporate ladder and be respectful for that, and you do have to be respectful and humble.
Yeah.
That you being arrogant about it, like pumping your chest up, saying like, "Look at me," it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It might work. It might feel as though it's working for you, but it's not working for the people you got to deal with.
Yeah. That probably makes sense because, like, in the group of the fellas, there's 3 boys like you. Like, there's yourself, Danny, and Darren as well. Like, we're very high up, and all you boys are pretty humble, I think, and sort of knockabout blokes and seem,
Look,
and that obviously is the successful way to do it, maybe, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about relationships.
Yep.
Yes, you got a product. Yes, you represent a company, but it takes the relationships between the supplier and the retailer, in my instance, to bring it together.
Yeah.
And if one of those are weak, it doesn't work.
Falls apart.
So, so like I said, I still enjoy it. And, my father's no longer here, but, there's a lot of good things that I reflect on with my dad's career that I remember as a younger bloke seeing what my dad used to do.
Yep.
And, I've sometimes got to pinch myself because it's a humbling moment just, when you're on your own.
Yeah.
You sort of reflect and you go, wow.
You followed in his footsteps a bit. Yeah.
And this is how small the world is, but my father worked for a company called EMO, which is Electrolux, here in Sydney at Riverwood. And they used to source products of a Korean company called Gold Star. Now, Gold Star is a part of LG. So it's called Lucky Gold Star, and they abbreviate to just LG.
Okay.
But Gold Star's the appliance side of the business. So my father used to fly to Korea and look at a range of fridges and washers, and they'd rebadge them. Westinghouse.
So LG stands for Lucky Gold Star.
Yeah,
not
correct.
Life's Good.
Yeah, it's Lucky Gold Star. Lucky is the chemical side.
Okay.
Gold Star is the appliances.
Okay.
And the Koo family one day decided to just call it LG because there was some points that there was some, I suppose, differences.
Okay.
So they abbreviated to LG, and out of that, my father, when it was Gold Star, used to go and source fridges, and used to stay at the same hotel that I started to stay at when I was going to Korea. It was just all surreal.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't by design.
Yep.
It just all happened. I even met the product manager that used to deal with my father in Korea, and he couldn't believe he was shaking my hand.
So your dad didn't get you into the career; you just chose that.
It by coincidence.
Yeah, wow.
I started off selling sinks.
Do you never work for the same company?
No.
Okay.
I actually went for a job with Electrolux, but it didn't come to the surface. So, so I nearly got there for the company that my father worked with, but no, I didn't. But it was just good to meet this Korean guy. I told him how I was, my father in the industry, and then he put one and one together, and he just couldn't believe who was standing in front of him.
Yeah, wow.
And then he went home, got some photos. The next day he came into the factory and he showed me a photo. It was my father. I said, "That's my father."
Yeah, wow.
So I took the photo home, and my dad at the time was alive, and
Yep.
I gave him the photo. He couldn't believe it. He was in tears.
Yeah.
So it's funny how life works.
Yeah.
It works in its mysterious ways, but for me, in that sense, it's been a great journey for that reason, in terms of that connection with my father. And like I said right at the beginning, I really admire what my father did in terms of working for this industry, and just the people that he worked with became his mates.
Yep.
Outside of work.
Yeah.
Whether it was golf or whether it was going to a pub for a game at a pool or genuine friends.
Yeah.
So enemies when it came to work, retailer, supplier.
Businesses,
but mates, when it came to the social side of it.
Yeah, which is good. And you talk about your dad, mate, and I know the backstory there. So, if do you want to share a bit of that, mate? You've obviously told me before, but for the guys, as regards to the mental health, and pretty relatable.
Yeah, it's very relatable. Look, like I said before, my dad was very successful in his career. He was very regimented, very systematic. In fact, too systematic.
Yeah.
And I was only young at the time with my sister. I think we were about, early teens. Going back in the 70s, and Mum and Dad had some friends over, and they had a nice lunch out in the balcony, and before we knew it, my father said to my mother that he's going to go and have a lay down. He wasn't feeling well, but unfortunately, he went upstairs and took a whole lot of medication and mixed formula of medication.
Yep.
To try and end his life.
Trying to overdose.
And my mother had no idea. But at the time, we put it down to he did have a change within his career of companies. And like I said before, my dad was very structured, and that broke structure for him.
Yeah.
So I think he was in a bit of a lost place. And in those days, no one really spoke about it or put their hand up, and my mother had no idea. But when they went upstairs to see if he was all right, they tried to wake him up and they couldn't. So they called the ambulance, and anyway, he went to hospital, and they fortunate enough to save him.
Yep.
And he spent about, I think maybe 5 to 6 weeks in hospital. He moved from the public system into the private sector. And I remember during that time, Dad's work asked my mother and my sister and I to go into their work. They wanted to do a presentation for us. And they gave my mother a big bowl of fruit and flowers and all that sort of thing. And she broke down. And I thought, well, Dad's all right. He's in hospital.
So did work know that he tried to take his own life? Or
No. They just knew that he was.
Did you guys know, or your mum kept it?
Oh, no, she did know once the doctors explained what.
But what about you guys, the kids?
No, not at all.
Mum just said Dad's sick.
Dad had a funny turn.
Yeah, yep.
So, it was kept very quiet, and obviously work wanted to give Mum gifts and all that, just to show their appreciation, and she broke down. So I thought there's something more to it. I just remember when I was a kid, there's something more to this. Maybe Dad's got something that's
really wrong or something.
Terminal, or I don't know.
Yep.
But look, we were fortunate enough that we got through that, and Dad changed businesses, got himself resettled. He became involved with the New South Wales Golf Club here in Sydney, so it's a very
prestigious
golf club, probably I think number 2 or 3 in Australia.
Yep.
Loves being a member there. He got involved with the committee. So within the committee, he joined the board. From the board, he worked his way around to captain, and then from captain, he served as president, and he did that for 5 years.
Yep.
And that's the most you can serve as president at New South Wales.
And was this after?
Well and truly after.
Way after.
Yeah, way after.
Okay.
So I'm talking, beyond 2000. So
Okay.
So he did extremely well at that golf club. He did a lot for that golf club, in terms of a voluntary basis and what he contributed to that golf club. He was also involved in the Bill Clinton when he came as president to New South Wales to play golf with Greg Norman.
Oh yeah, wow.
Involved in that, and that was interesting. So I got to see correspondence from the White House that my dad would bring home because he was president of the golf club, so I could see this stuff. But once his 5 years was up, and he had retired by then, by the way.
Okay.
But the golf club gave him full time basically because he was president. But when his 5 years was up, he was lost.
Okay.
And again, very regimented, very structured, and just lost, and put a lot of effort into playing golf and supporting the committee there. And then, just one day I was at LG in the boardroom, and one of the guys from my team downstairs came running into the boardroom and said, "Your wife just said get in the car now and get home. It's an emergency." So I had no idea what that meant. And so I raced out of the boardroom, jumped in my car, rang my wife, said, what's wrong? And she said, "I'm on the way to your parents' place. Your father's tried to take his life." And I thought, you're kidding.
And how long ago was that?
That was 2016.
Okay. And that was a long time after the first time?
So I think the first time was in the mid-70s, thereabouts.
Okay, wow. So, and you still had never known about
never
the
known
first
about
time?
the first time.
Okay,
No, Mum just didn't talk about it.
Never thought about it.
Mum didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, 2016 came around. This took place, and it was a lot more severe this time. So Mum had been out with my nephew and niece. She was babysitting, and when she got up, she threw a bottle of alcohol on the table, which is unusual during the day. Yeah. Pills all over the table, and there was a couple of knives on the table as well. So Mum panicked and sent my nephew downstairs under the house. There was a big area under the house, big concrete slope, plenty of room. So Ben went down there and unfortunately found my father laying on the ground, a puddle of blood, and sorry to be graphic, but for him it was just a terrible experience.
Well, how old was
Ben? Would have been about, I think, what was he now? So he would have been probably 15, 16, 15, 16. So, so it was very overwhelming situation to be involved in. So he's panicked and raced off and called my mum. Mum's called 000. But anyway, look, the ambulance got there, and there was a couple of ambulances and police, and got him to hospital, and fortunately saved him. And it was an incredible save because it was quite severe with what he went through. And it was so overwhelming for us. We thought, hang on, as kids, we thought, hang on, highly successful, very likable, so sociable,
and
not
high
just
up in the community too.
Yeah, in the community,
golf club
and golf, and he belonged to a snooker club too.
Yep.
He was always on.
Yep.
Thought so. Anyway, our goal was to get him back to good health, and that took several months.
So he said pull of blood, so he tried to cut himself, did he? And
yeah, he did the wrist and neck,
oh, wow.
pills, alcohol,
everything,
and that didn't get him. We were
not meant to be, eh?
No, yeah. So our main concern was for Ben, young Ben. But he's a beautiful nephew, beautiful kid. We can talk about it today.
So what would he be now, like 20,
22,
23,
23? Oh,
22, 23.
Yes, yeah. Oh, a bit older than that.
And is he all right?
He's great.
Yep.
A very, very stable kid, likable kid. But yeah, so he's got through it pretty well.
And how were you guys after it? Like,
look,
obviously
it was
shocked.
Totally.
Yeah.
We're very naturally overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Unsure. And then when we went through the care that he had to go through, with St. George Hospital, and then he got transferred to a mental institution in terms of, support and nurturing. And that was for several months. And they were hard months. Like, I used to go in there as much as I could from work, maybe every second day. My sister and mum, and
shared a load a bit.
Yeah. And then some people from the golf club started going to help, break up the load on us.
Yep.
Just very close friends to Dad. And every conversation was hard. And it just seemed as though we weren't getting anywhere.
Did he ever talk about why? Did you ask him? Or not really?
Oh, yes and no.
Yeah.
Our focus was to try and, I suppose it's like the old rear vision mirror.
Okay, try and leave it behind.
Look into the rear vision mirror, look at the windscreen ahead.
Yeah.
So that's what we tried to do.
Try and build him up with positive stuff.
And really state a purpose
Yep.
in life, what life's all about for the family and more so for himself. So as a team, we got through it. He was on heavy medication when he came. Naturally, there was a lot of watch involved.
Yeah.
Naturally, we had to put a lot of things out of reach as well, just to be, on the safety side of things. Get him re-engaged with the community and friends.
Yeah.
And, he wasn't afraid to talk about it either, which was good.
Okay.
So people from the golf club, there was some people from the golf club that kind of just didn't want to know Dad.
Oh, really? Brushed him?
Yeah, a few. I wouldn't say nowhere near the majority.
Yeah,
very
but
minority.
But
okay.
But they judged him for it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's a very, high standard golf club, a lot of professionals.
Yeah.
But like I said, the majority got behind him. And he started playing golf again, but because of what he did to his wrists, he just couldn't play to his potential.
Okay.
But he still got around the course.
Yeah.
Which is great. That was a breath of fresh air for us.
And what about your mum? She must have struggled then.
She was, mum idolised, naturally any wife idolised their husband. She idolised him. And what my mum been through for the second time was just horrific. And she still tried to keep somewhat private about it.
Yeah, not tell everyone or whatever.
Yeah, just the
close people.
Just close people that need to know. But for me, it was like a freight train hitting me because I did not see it coming.
Yeah, wow.
There was no signs. When you're dealing with someone
that's never depressed, never anxious, just thought everything.
Never sort of scratching his head saying what to do next.
Yeah, and like you said, financially fine.
Yeah, financially
family,
fine.
Happy, everything.
We just
healthy.
Healthy. Oh, definitely healthy. We just put it down to, again, change of life in terms of his commitment to the community, like going from president to not being a president.
Maybe he felt not needed as much anymore.
Yeah.
And I suppose when all the kids are growing up, everyone's gone.
Yes.
Felt lost a bit.
Yeah, very similar to when he first went through that experience. It was in between jobs and whatnot. And then when you look at what happened here, he was very highly regarded in the club, very visual in the club, and suddenly kind of like nothing. But look, he out of all that, the club gave him an honorary membership, not because of what he went through.
Yep.
He was a member for, I think, 34 years.
The time he spent there.
The time he spent there and the commitment. So he was one of 4 lifetime members.
Are you a member there now?
Oh, he wanted me to be, but I can't afford that, Russ. Like, I think it's, 20 grand a year or something like that.
Yeah, wow.
But I can pick up the phone and say, look, would you mind if I take a buddy out there and have a hit? And they'll always
accommodate.
Accommodate.
Yep.
So, so I'm fortunate for that. You know?
Yeah.
So it's been a crazy ride in that respect.
So bigger shot. And you, like now, has it affected you now since, or no, not really?
No, I think I'm just, I suppose, full time in terms of keeping myself occupied. I'm not as structured as my dad.
Yep.
Probably a little bit loose at that.
Yep.
I like a bit of flexibility. But, it was interesting. Pete Thompson, as the Gropers would, 5 would, incredible golfer. Don't play with him because all he does is hole in one, so he'll steal your money. But no, look, Pete's daughter and my son, they've been seeing each other for maybe 6 or 7 years, and they're a great couple. And we go up to lunch with Peter and Peter's wife Jackie.
Yep.
Myself and Kim, and I'll never get it. It was in 21 during COVID. We went down to the Sylvania Bowling Club. I think one of your old drinking holes.
Oh yeah, I used to go there with an old mate of mine. Like, rest in peace now, Scotty. He was my best mate, and he died of cancer.
Oh, really?
About 3 years ago now. So I used to go with him, especially towards the end. It was really good because, like, he was going through his chemo or that, struggling. But I'd catch up with him when I didn't. Every second weekend we go down, have a beer, and just chat, and it was really good. Like, especially his perspective on life. Like, he was a pretty successful businessman too. But then when he got sick, he started thinking differently, obviously, and we'd just catch up and chat. It was really good.
Yeah. Now, look, just trying to think where I was at then. But,
with the bowling club with Pete.
Oh, the bowling club with Pete. So Pete said to me, he said, what are you doing these days? And so, like, I ride mountain bikes and things like that. And he said, I've got a proposition for you. And I said, what is it? And he goes, what do you like at swimming? I said, I swim. I love swimming. So he said, well, would you like to come for a swim down at the beach tomorrow? I said, Pete, it's May. It's winter, basically. Winter's right at the doorstep. He said, no, you got to come down. Trust me on this one. You'll enjoy it. There's a great bunch of guys down there that I want you to meet. I said, okay, well, I've still got my swimming wetsuit from my Ironman days. I'll grab. He goes, no, there's rules. Rules are just bring your budgies. I said, I'm not swimming in the ocean in May, end of May.
In
budgies. Anyway, I did. And I've got to say, it's been so refreshing for me.
Yep.
Yes, I work, my job's my job. It's demanding in terms of time. In terms of the mental space, I got on a mountain biking because it helped break that up a bit. But you can't always race off into the bush on a mountain bike, every day or every morning.
So that takes a bit of time too. That's probably like a 3-hour event.
It's a whole, that's right. So
half a day.
Takes half a day nearly by the time you do that. But no, so once I got introduced to the Gropers, I met incredible people down there, and I thought, wow, this is a real fit for me.
Yep.
I love swimming. Obviously, I love having a chat.
Yep.
Love coffee too. And Pete said, that's what it's all about. And so I swam the first morning, and then JD, captain, said to me, mate, you got to swim twice to your number. Okay. Tomorrow morning, is that counting? He goes, absolutely. Raced down the next morning, had a swim and got my number. And as it is, it's 111. So,
nice.
And haven't looked back. And it's a real breath of fresh air for me because it's a really good balance in my life.
Yeah. So for you weren't, like, I know a lot of fellas that have gone down there and joined that group, if they're struggling a bit, but for you, it was more just a bit of a release, get out of work life. Like, obviously you weren't struggling, you were fine, but just good release for you. And
there's hard days that you have at the office. Everyone does in their working life. And I find that if I can go down in the morning and get a quick hour in and a good chat, it just takes the edge off it.
Set you up for the day.
Then I go and have a shower, jump in the car. My drive's about 45 minutes, and I'm mentally set, ready to go and face the challenges that I know that I'm about to face.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I love it.
Yeah.
It's delivered me exactly that in terms of a work-life style type balance.
With balance.
Yeah. And what I like about the group, there's no expectation.
No.
None. And everyone's there for each other.
Yeah.
Even when you're swimming. I remember when I first started swimming, I haven't swum for several years. I was swimming with bricks tied to me. I thought I'm not going to enjoy this too
every
much.
time. I don't float very good.
But what I noticed is when we swim out to the cans that we swim to, and then they wanted to swim out the point, I thought I'll give that a go one day. And I swim out to the point. Then coming back, I was kind of on my own a bit, but then people were waiting for me.
Yeah.
And they said, no one's left on their own. We all come back together.
Which is good.
And I thought, wow, it's not about the competitive space at all. It's just about talking to each other, having fun, and really admiring that moment.
Yeah.
So.
And it's nice to be swimming in the sun when the sun comes up each morning. It's really nice.
Oh, it's just so peaceful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful down there, and we're so lucky where we live.
Nice spot.
And if you remember, I said my parents lived in Lugano, and my ambition was to eventually, get to the Southern Shire and live in the Southern Shire, and that dream came true.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, it was good, Muzz.
Yeah.
Thanks for the chat, buddy.
Yeah.
And thanks for telling your story and sharing it with us, mate. And
yeah, no, I appreciate the time, Russ.
It was really good.
Yeah, well, sorry, I just did draw breath, but
No, it's good. That's what it's about. It's really good.
Yeah.
So, mate, thanks for your time and your story. And probably a lot of fellas didn't know that story, and it hopefully relates to somebody, can help someone out there that listens to the podcast.
I really do hope so.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, mate.
We'll see you soon. Eh?
Cheers, Muzz.
Okay.
Thanks,
Cheers, mate.
bud.
All right. Take care.